right, let's talk about something you've probably seen a million times, but maybe never really thought about. That tiny little hole in your airplane window. It looks like a total afterthought, right? Well, trust me, we're about to find out why it has a surprisingly huge and super critical job.
Yeah, that one. Go on, picture it. Right at the bottom of the window, it's this tiny, almost invisible little hole. Now, maybe you're the curious type who's always wondered, what's that for? Or maybe you've flown a dozen times and never even noticed it. Either way, it's there on pretty much every single commercial flight you'll ever take. And here's the kicker. That little dot, it's not a mistake. It's not a crack or some kind of flaw in the manufacturing. It is, believe it or not, an incredibly clever and absolutely essential safety feature. Seriously, flying as we know it just wouldn't be as safe without it. So let's get into it and figure out how this whole thing works. Okay, so to get why this hole is such a big deal, we have to talk about the window itself. Because it's not just one piece of glass like the windows in your house. Oh no, it's a way more sophisticated piece of engineering. What you're looking at is actually 3 separate layers or panes. You've got the tough outer pane, then a middle pane, and finally the inner pane. That's the one you can actually touch, the one that gets all the smudges on it. And our little mystery hole, it's drilled right into that middle pane. Now, why it's there? Well, that has everything to do with the crazy environment just on the other side of that window. All right, let's talk pressure. Because when you're way up there, cruising along at 35,000 feet, the world outside your window is, well, it's incredibly hostile. The air is ridiculously thin, and the atmospheric pressure is dangerously low. It's not a place for people. So inside the cabin, the airline keeps the air pressure at a nice, comfortable, breathable level. Kind of like you're on a tall mountain. But outside, the pressure is a tiny fraction of that. Think of the plane like a balloon. You've got all this high-pressure air on the inside wanting to get out, constantly pushing outwards against the body of the plane. And that constant outward force, it puts a ton of stress on every single part of the aircraft. But you gotta think, where's the weak point? It's the windows, right? They're basically just holes in the plane's body, and they feel that stress more than anything. So, the billion-dollar question. How on earth does that tiny little hole solve this massive pressure puzzle? Well, it's time for the big reveal. This is where that simple-looking dot proves it's an absolute work of genius. Okay, so the official name for this thing is a bleed hole, and its main job is to act like a tiny valve. It lets a little bit of air from the cabin bleed through into that small gap between the middle and outer panes. So what does that do? Well, here's the crucial part. By letting some cabin air into that gap, the bleed hole makes sure that the outer pane takes the full brunt of the pressure difference. And that outer pane is the strongest of the 3. It's the one that's built for the job. The middle pane, it's basically just hanging out, acting as a backup, just in case. But wait, there's more. Seriously, the genius of this thing doesn't even stop there. That little hole is a total multitasker. It's got a couple of other really important jobs that are all about your safety and your comfort. So first, we know it balances the air pressure. Check. But it also lets moisture escape from between the panes. What does that mean for you? It means the window doesn't fog up or get all frosty when it's freezing outside, so you can actually see the clouds. And number 3, it's a critical failsafe. In the super unlikely event that something happened to the outer pane, that little hole helps make sure the middle pane can take over smoothly. It's an incredible backup system. So the next time you're on a flight and you spot that little hole, you can just sit back and relax. It's not a crack, it's not a defect, it is definitely not a sign of danger. It's the complete opposite. It's a brilliant piece of engineering that's actively working to keep you safe. It's just such a perfect example of how sometimes the smallest, most overlooked details in engineering can make the biggest difference. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other tiny designs are out there, all around us, secretly keeping us safe every single day?